Today we're making rainbow panna cotta, starting off with 1 cup of milk in a saucepan and 1 envelope of unflavored gelatin. Sprinkle the gelatin on top of the milk. Let it sit there for about 10 minutes for the gelatin to soften and absorb some of the liquid. This is not on the heat at the moment. Once the 10 minutes has passed, turn the heat on to medium-low and begin to whisk until the gelatin is dissolved and the milk is heated up a little bit. At that point, add a tablespoon of sugar and continue to whisk over medium heat, stirring constantly until the sugar is dissolved. Take this off of the heat, and to this mixture, add another cup of milk. I'm just using 2% milk. You can use whatever kind of milk that you'd like. And for flavoring, I'm adding a half a teaspoon of almond extract, but you could use vanilla extract as well. And that is 1 cup of sweetened condensed milk that I'm going to add to the milk and gelatin and stir until it is well combined. Then I divided the milk mixture among 6 bowls, trying to put equal amounts of liquid into each bowl, and then I dyed each of the bowls a different color, 1 for each color of the rainbow. I used paste food coloring because it's very vibrant and easy to use, but you can use liquid food coloring as well. So once your colors are all mixed, then you need to pour them into a mold. I'm using a jumbo-sized muffin tin, and I'm putting a little bit into each of the cups. I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do 6, that I would have enough for 4 in this size. Then you put each layer in the refrigerator and let it set completely before adding the next layer. So it takes about 10 minutes or so, 10 or 15 minutes for each layer to set. It goes faster as you add the layers because the layers beneath it will help cool it. And I found it better to put the spoon on the edge of the mold and just let it gently pool over the other layers, and it keeps it from going underneath the layers. And then finally the last one, which is the purple, and I put that in the refrigerator as well. Let it set completely. I let it sit for about an hour in the fridge before I tried to unmold them. I ran a sharp knife around the edge just to try to get a little bit of air between the mold and the gelatin. And then comes the unmolding. I had it in my head that I could flip it over onto a plate and all 4 of them would gently plop onto the plate, but they didn't. So I had to try to pry one out at a time. That's the first one. You can see that when I poured the orange on top of the red, it kind of went underneath, and that's where I realized that you had to be very gentle and just put it along the edge to let it pool over top. These are very hard to transfer from one plate to another, so this is not something that you'd want to do. The next one I placed on a single plate, and I kind of reach up and just detach the side of the gelatin from the mold, and it kind of just plops out. And to garnish and to add a little bit of flavor, I put some Cool Whip, which is a dessert topping, in a Ziploc bag. I cut the corner off, and I'm just piping out some little fluffy clouds. I want it to look like a rainbow in the sky with some clouds around it. You could also use whipped cream for this. The actual dessert itself is quite light. It's creamy and sweet, and it would be a perfect accompaniment to a meal if you're making for company, because it looks quite fancy. Now, some notes about making this and unmolding it. What I would suggest is you put these little layers into something like a champagne glass or a large wine glass so that you wouldn't have to unmold it, and then you could see all the colors through the glass. I think that would be the best thing because unmolding is a bit difficult. To make unmolding easier, I suggest you also, if you don't want to use glasses, to use individual molds and not a muffin tin where they're all attached. Individual molds, you could center it onto a plate, and then you could unmold it and it would be exactly where you need it, and you wouldn't have to transfer it. So this has a lot of potential for a really cute dessert for really any purpose. It's very colorful and delicious. And there is a spoonful and what it looks like on a spoon just as you're serving it. Give it a try.